In Scunthorpe in 1985, two incredible things happened for culture. Scunthorpe Borough Council invested in public art, and I was born. That's me there. I'm Michael Burkitt, and I'm an artist. Easy to tell that, isn't it? This is the first artwork I ever saw. It's 40 years old, like me. Not sure who's looking better, really. As an artist, you get inspired by whatever's around you, but certainly place. And, you know, I'm from Scunthorpe, but I moved back here 4 years ago, and since then I've been really interested in, you know, local landmarks and the places that make the town. And this news article from the microfilm at the library, Scunthorpe Central, and it says here that the picture that Scunthorpe has been waiting to see, with artist George Massey, 30, with the completed three-dimensional Roman garden mural in Scunthorpe Francis Street. Well, almost completed, for a plaque has to be erected on the site to commemorate the work, which was initially due to be completed on the 31st of July. The mural was commissioned by Lincolnshire Arts Group and Scunthorpe Borough Council. Completing has a cost of £8,500. Such a significant investment in 1985. You know, in today's money, adjusted for inflation, it's about £90,000. You know, you could buy a house with that money today, and you certainly could in 1985. Should we be looking after this? This is Francis Street here, a row of terraced houses. We can see what's left of it. It was meant to be a landmark in Scunthorpe for 50 years, and 40 years on, do we know why? Do we know why this is here? Probably not. Maybe you come past this every day on the bus and you see it and you think, what is that? Well, this film's going to find out. Who was George? What was his ideas for this Roman garden? Why is it here in Scunthorpe? It's not particularly known as a Roman settlement as far as I know.
Romans were definitely in North Lincolnshire. North Lincolnshire has a really rich Roman history. It's not just rich in Roman history, but it's got a really rich Roman history. So the Romans arrived on the south coast in around AD 43, gradually took over from, you know, moving from the south, north and towards Wales, stopped at the Humber in AD 61. So the area that is North Lincolnshire was part of the Coil Tauri tribe, and that became subsumed into the Roman Empire. They progressed beyond the Humber after AD 61 and finished the conquering of the north by about AD 71, around where Hadrian's Wall is. And then the Romans didn't leave till around 410. So you've got like over 300 years of Roman history there. The settlement that is now Scunthorpe might not necessarily have started as a Roman settlement, but in Ashby, Bottisford, when they've been doing the big housing estates that have been built over the last few years, they've found really, really good evidence for Roman settlement. Iron Age going into Roman, and also some that's just Roman. So to think that the Romans were never here isn't right. There's loads and loads of evidence. Mosaics are a high status kind of Roman style decorative feature that we find in villas, whether it's in a town villa or whether it's a rural villa. But in North Lincolnshire, the mosaics that we've got are from rural villas, and the main ones are Hawkstow, Winterton, Sturton, and Roxby as well. The ones that we have in the museum collection are the ones that were lifted from Winterton. They were in the sort of in the public facing rooms of the villas. So if you went round to a villa owner's house for dinner, you would most likely be welcomed into a dining room with a mosaic floor. And they're all about showing status, so that how Romanised you are. They're a really Roman type of decorative feature that's imported with the Roman style of living, drinking wine, using Samian pottery, having bathhouses, all of those kind of things that come along with the Roman sort of lifestyle package, and they bring the mosaics with them as well.
To having a mosaic in your town centre is quite fancy.
It is, yeah.
Well, high status.
Yeah.
Is this really part of our cultural identity? Do we care about it? Should we? And if we don't, maybe we shouldn't have public artwork or investment in the town in future. The intention for all public artworks like this is to become part of your cultural identity, a landmark, something that identifies the town, makes it different from other places. So this film is about trying to find out more about public artwork in towns and cities across the north of England. And we're going to try and find George and ask him about his experience of working in Scunthorpe. His mission was for it to be a landmark in the town for 50 years. And not sure it has become that. But could it be? Should it be? Let's find out.
So here I am at the singing ringing tree in Burnley, and we can just, if you listen really carefully, you can just hear it as the wind blows through the steel pipes. The holes that are cut in the pipes make a sound which is, really special. It's kind of like an eerie, ethereal sound. It's kind of incredible, really. I mean, the surroundings just beautiful around here. But then this magnificent structure, it just sort of looks majestic on the hillside. The singing ringing tree was intended to be a new landmark for Burnley. I can see why. There are people doing a trail from Burnley up to the landmark, sitting here, families having picnics, kids playing and listening to the sounds. I've been really excited by this piece of public sculpture. I feel like it's a total success in terms of it being a landmark for Burnley. And it's a site, a tourist site. You can go on Google Maps, it'll tell you exactly where it is and give you all of the information you need to plan a visit. This is what a landmark looks like in the 21st century, and it's a return to those Victorian follies of the last century as well.
I couldn't last night. I was thinking about you, the way that you wore your hair, the things that you used to do. But it's all crumbling to dust. Memories are crumbling to dust. I don't know what yesterday.
This incredible steel sculpture is made out of Victorian loom pieces, and it's to celebrate the ambition of youth in Bradford. It cost £15,000 and sits proudly here in the centre of this city. It's the capital of culture year for Bradford 2025, the big baby, or the baby of the north. As you can hear by people coming by, people absolutely love it. And what I love is that the artists work with schools and community groups on the design to depict a bold infant taking its first steps in the world. It's also bonkers, like baby Terminator in front of a building delivering child services. They must be terrified. And although it's not popular with everyone, it has become like an alternative landmark, embraced by many with tongues firmly in cheeks. There are memes. It's featured on local band merch. You're in Bradford, all right. Is a monumental sculpture in the northeast here in Gateshead. A stunning piece of art that overlooks the motorway and welcomes people. The Angel of the North represents the industrial history. It goes deeper underground than it sits above the ground, representing the miners. The core 10 steel was fabricated locally and was brought here on a flatbed truck in 3 pieces and assembled in one day with a giant crane. It cost £800,000. That's 100 George Masses. A significant investment that's helped strengthen and lead the cultural regeneration of Gateshead and the renaissance of culture and creativity in the northeast, whilst becoming a landmark and a monument to all of that graft. The Angel of the North is a northerner, stoic, resilient. It can withstand up to 100-mile-an-hour winds. But it also represents more to the people here, and that's evident by the memorial garden that's popped up in the woodlands at the front of the Angel of the North. Really touching tributes to family members who have been moved so much by this site and by this work that they want to remember their loved ones here. A bit like a park bench when it says, in memory of. This was their favourite place. Well, it's up there with one of mine.
Although it's easy to find information about these public artworks, it's really not easy to find anything about George. So I did what good people my age do. I asked ChatGPT. But do you know what? Artificial intelligence couldn't help me either. What chance did I have? My search was coming up short. It'd been a few months now. The funders were starting to ask questions. What could I do? Well, I know when he was born, but actually it seems a bit grim looking through the obituaries. No good finding his birth certificate. Hey, how about the council records? They must have some receipts or meeting minutes about the notes. Scunthorpe Borough Council's dissolved now, but I think Grimsby Town Hall or the archives in North East Lincolnshire have the records. Local MPs, local historians, archivists. Well, all of these searches came up short. No one really knew anything about George or the Roman garden, or had the time this summer to help me. Probably on a beach somewhere. Maybe I should have been on a beach. But I'm not. I'm here looking for George Massey. Things are getting a bit desperate now, just looking at pictures of men with the same name who might be around the age he is. And then, just as I was about to change my name by default to George Massey and find myself, my mate Dave gave me Chris Marsden's email. He's an architectural researcher and public art hunter. And do you know what? He got back to me in an hour with 18 attachments. And better than that, a home address and a phone number.
Welcome to voicemail. After you have finished your message, just hang up. Or to hear more options, please press 1.
But I still had a home address. Snail mail. Why not? Nothing to lose. Let's write him a letter.
George, Michael.
Nice to see you, Michael.
So great to meet you. Thank
Please
you for
come
doing
in.
this. Really appreciate it. Can I
Please
come in?
Yes.
Thank you. It's great to be here in Glasgow, and thank you for inviting us into your home. It's great to finally meet you. We've been looking for you. I've been looking for you for a while, which sounds a bit creepy, I know, but I've been I've been in archives and speaking to historians about your work in Scunthorpe. So I just thought we'd maybe start with what your memories are of your Roman sculpture garden.
Yeah, well, I probably, obviously it was a long time ago, but obviously I remember making it because, obviously most of it was made in Glasgow. And, it was installed obviously over, I think, a few days, But I probably got quite a strong memory of thinking it's the right thing to have done there, really. That was the overriding sort of feeling that, because of the scale of the gable end, the building, I thought it, definitely was adding something, Obviously, with every commission, the process is often sort of quite different. Sometimes, you go and you look at the site and you get impression what you want to do. Sometimes, people are asking for specific things, or, either, a written, set of ideas, or a drawing, or a maquette. I remember, I think they were originally looking for a mural, but my feeling was that it really needed something, not only to fill the space of the gable end, but, to create a sense of space, or place rather than space,
Yeah, I read in You were quoted in the local press when you were given the commission that you wanted to create a meeting point for someone, for people to gather. And what I really loved and what drew me into the research really was your ambition for that, and the Scunthorpe Borough Council and Lincolnshire and Humberside Arts Group's vision, which was to create a landmark for 50 years.
Yeah.
I just love the ambition of that, and the work's still there in a kind of form, 40 years on. And I guess part of the thinking about making this film was, what do we want to do with it over the next 10 years to make it be there for 50 and hopefully 50 more after that. When you're designing a 3-dimensional mural, when you start making it, are those sorts of things in your mind about the future and how it will be received, or are you just involved in the process?
Well, I mean, I've always worked in materials that I intend to last, because to me, it's not really worth the effort unless it's going to last. A lot of so-called public art and community art is really designed to maybe only be there for a few years or something like that. And to me, that just doesn't seem worthwhile, So, I mean, really, I'm looking to do something that will last, and, specifically, Francis Street, we were using, I was using glass mosaic, which, lasts a long time, and other materials like concrete and things like that. So I knew that would last if taken care of. Obviously, the wooden trellis, I'm aware, that wouldn't last 50 years, but you hope then that people will look after it.
We've got a picture of it here, and there's so many mosaic tiles. These were all glass mosaic tiles,
Yeah.
and wooden trellis behind it, and the walls painted this beautiful ochre colour. So this was the first artwork I ever saw as a little boy. I think I remember particularly being taken there in a pushchair to take it in, and the vibrancy of it and the colours, which sadly we don't see that vibrancy when we visit the site at the moment, but the colours and the patterns in all of this, they were really bold, weren't they? And do you want to tell us a little bit about your thinking behind the design?
I suppose the thinking about the pillars really was the idea of like creating something that would grow. Originally, columns from Egypt, Greece, Rome, they were all derived from natural forms. So it was a sort of, the idea being that, this would help to, this was a new growth here that people could, build upon really,
The site itself, there was, reading about how the commission was formulated, there was some of the budget allocated for landscaping to create this garden around it. And in this picture here, we can see a seating area as well, so people who could gather and meet. Was it the idea that this would be a gathering place or a landmark? Because at that time you wouldn't have had a mobile phone to say, "I'll where are you? I'll come find you." Was it the idea this would be a gathering spot?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. People generally, prepared to sit and spend a bit of time in areas that they find interesting and can relax in. Really, So it was definitely. As I say, too many spaces are left without any real focus.
Because there's definitely not another Roman garden in Scunthorpe, that's for sure.
No. This is one of the things. A lot was called, and there is elements of this Roman design. It's probably more akin to what you'd have found in some of the Egyptian columns, really.
Okay.
So there's a bit of an amalgam of various things.
Do you call it your Roman sculpture garden? Is it a 3-dimensional mural? Has the work got a title?
Oh, really? I mean, I just tend to remember it as the Francis Street sculpturing garden. It's just really a play as much on the past. One of the capital heads being off of the actual column. It's saying something about time. Time passes. There is other histories. For me, many works that I've done, there is often historical references, but the same token, you're looking for something that's new as well, or maybe new to people, other people. Something that, you know, can say, well, it may have sprung from that era, or ideas from that era, but this is of the present, really, you know.
Yeah. Had you worked much with the museum? I read in one of these articles that the mosaic behind might have been based on one of their donated mosaics, or did you speak to anybody, local historians, about Roman settlements there or anything like that?
I think I probably did some sort of research. I'm not sure, to be completely frank, how much, you know. As I say, again, these elements were to try and give a sort of feeling of fragments remaining, and that the colonnades built around them, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've always been interested in architecture and history, so it's definitely also, you know, my interest's been played into it as well, you know.
This must have been one of the design images you've sent to get the commission.
Yeah. Well, in fact, as I say, that was the model I made.
It says here that you were 28 at the time. That feels, you know, as a 40-year-old artist who's not had a commission to make a public sculpture like this before, that feels young. Did you feel like a young artist, or were you already quite established and it was part of the journey?
No, I'd already made these terrace mosaics, which, you know, would really be the equivalent of making like maybe 10, 15 commissions, you know, into one.
So you'd already been very prolific up until that point.
So, you know, I've always been technically very proficient in, you know, working the material. But I think it's like everything else. You sort of, every work you do, you learn something. And the reason, I mean, I hadn't made a sculptural work like that. You know, I had no background in that at all, really. You know, although I had made smaller things when I was at art school, nothing technical like that. So it was a bit of a change for me.
Yeah.
But I think that was, you know, intrigued me a bit. You know, just to not to be just sort of repeating the same thing all the time. You know.
I think they're often the best commissions as well, where you've got an artist that wants to try this new thing they're really passionate about and excited, and it's an ambitious work.
You know, I worked slowly on it myself, really, you know. Used some drainage pipes for the, you know, which I joined for the column, you know, which were pretty heavy duty. And I made a wooden former for the capital heads. So I found a firm in Glasgow that could spray them lightweight concrete, which is pretty important because otherwise they would be enormously heavy, you know.
Yeah, and to transport from Glasgow to Scunthorpe in 1985 was a hell of a journey, and that's not easy, is it?
I mean, the thing is, because you know, they were done in sections. You know, the column was done in sections that could be put together in sections, and you know, any sort of small joining work, you know, I did down there. And the capitals weren't too heavy that we couldn't lift them on by hand, basically. There was some guys from the local authority who were doing the garden, which helped me out with that, you know.
Actually, I might have a picture. I wonder if it's the same day. And I wanted to ask you which person you are, because there's a local press clipping of it says the headline is "George has started," and it says they're obsessed with the timescale here, but they always say, it's almost a year later, and then the work was expected, and it's finally started on the £5,400 mural, and I think ended up being more than that. But here you are, look, George Massey, on the uppermost scaffolding. So can you confirm, George, is any of them you?
Let me have a quick look at that. I think that may be me on the left. Can't really say for certain.
Yeah. So you definitely remember getting up there. And so it says you were painting it there. Was that the first thing to do? Paint the gable end?
Yeah. Although, the funny thing is, until, you know, I've seen this photograph, you know, forgot all about the painting, you know?
Yeah, because it was the whole wall, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That sort of lovely ochre colour, that very warm.
Well, it's the sort of Mediterranean sort of
Is that
colour,
what you're
really, you
going
know?
for? Mediterranean,
You'd find in colonnades and things like that.
How do they assemble? Are they on a central column? What's underground? Because they're still stood.
Yeah. Well, obviously we had to concrete the bottom section in to the ground, you know, and obviously it had to be levelled up, make sure you're starting from a good level, you know.
Yeah, you don't want them wonky.
No, you don't want them all different sizes, you know, heights. But obviously, even, you know, they were pretty heavy duty, you know, pretty heavy duty.
Yeah.
So it took me and a few of the lads to move them about.
How did you get them down there? Was it flatbed or in your motor or?
No, I think we just did a transit van. Money was,
It was a hire van. Okay,
money was tight.
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because there's a few mentions in here and it's sort of snidey press, and you get this a lot with public artworks. I went to the Angel of the North on my way up here, and you know they mentioned the £800,000 investment, which I think is an absolute snip for the sculpture of that sort of iconic work. But it seemed like there was some sort of disagreement about payment or a payment schedule. Were there challenges in, as there is with every public art, as there was with the Angel of the North? What were the challenges of working in Glasgow and creating this work in Scunthorpe?
I suppose the thing is, like, for somebody commissioning somebody to do something, you sort of draw up a timetable or when you think things can go and how money will be paid. But the reality of making artworks is nothing like, you know, anything that can be timetabled, you know. So basically, you know, I just worked as hard as I could doing it.
Yeah.
It became an issue because it was taking so long, and people become, I suppose, naturally worried about what was happening with something, you know, we're financing. But as I say, I just worked away, and I wouldn't say I paid no heed to it, because obviously you don't want people worried. You know, and I would send photographs of me working, you know, in the studio or whatever to them. Yeah. But often the people have got no experience of that area. I think it was at Pope Pius and Michelangelo had, you know, feuds for years, you know, about when are you going to do the Sistine Chapel, you know, or how is it going on? I'm not comparing them to Michelangelo, but you know, it's the same thing. It just holds true that everybody, you know, you go into it with your best intentions to do it in a certain period of time, but the reality comes home, and you either can do things quicker or you can keep to your own schedule to sort of get the quality you're trying to achieve. You know, I'm surprised I didn't know there was as many questions have been asked about it, you know. It's my name, it's my reputation, you know. I don't really worry about the idea of the reputation. Oh, he's got a reputation for being late. You know, I'd rather that than a reputation for putting shoddy work. You're working on something for a long time, and although you're always hopeful that it'll turn out well and people will like it, you know, there's always a nagging doubt that you think, well, maybe I've got this one wrong, or, you know.
Yeah, I do. I feel like that in every project. There's always a bit in the middle where you think, this could go either way.
I don't think that's, you know, a bad attitude, you know, thinking, be worried about it, because obviously, you know, what's lying behind that is the fact that you're trying to do something good, you know, and that, you know, the quality of the product, if you can put it that way, is important to you, you know.
So that's what it looks like today. That's a picture of the summit last week, and just maybe share your thoughts with us on the handouts today.
I mean, I'm also quite sad when I see the condition of it. I mean, I'm so. They've also put a cycle path in that, you know, a chair or a bench right in front of one of the columns, you know, and it's sad, really, you know, it really is. Really. I just sort of feel a bit sad about the whole thing, you know.
What would you like to see happen in the coming years on the site and in the future?
Well, as I say, the first thing it would be, the painting of the gable end again. The taking away of the bench in front of the column. Perhaps some sort of remedial work on the mosaic. I don't, it wouldn't cost it. You have to restore quite a lot of it, really. It's kind of sad. As I was speaking to you earlier, when we did the Easter House mosaic, and they had a big reception at the end of it, and Princess Diana, etc. came. I remember one of the women there said, "I never thought I'd see the day that we would get a princess come to Easter House to see something of ours." Yeah, we can cost it, yes. And this is, then became a work that became well known in certain circles. Really? Surprisingly. And it's kind of sad. Drew a bit of pride from that, Of course. So I feel that people have got to be ambitious, and you've got to say, well, your communities can be more. I don't, and this is one way of, achieving that. It doesn't change people's lives fundamentally, but pride in where you come from and, when you live is not a bad thing.
Finding George wasn't just about tracking down a person. It was about finding a purpose for a sculpture, for a memory, for a town still shaping its story. Because sometimes a landmark isn't a building or a plaque. Sometimes it's just something that lasts, even when we stop noticing it. The real question is, what are we doing today to make sure it's still noticed tomorrow? This isn't just about art. It's about belonging, our shared history, and deciding what's worth remembering. And that's something we all take part in. George was aware that over time things fade, but the sculpture garden needs some intervention. I've been spending a lot of time here, and it reflects a town with lots of social challenge. I'm not sure it's a place you can relax in now. There's often many people you meet here of addiction, physical and mental health challenges. But could we take a step towards improving these issues by first taking some pride in one of our oldest landmarks? We don't have many left, but this is definitely one. So I'll start by listing the Francis Street Sculpture Garden by George Massey as a visitor attraction on Google Maps. Just like the Singing Ringing Tree in Burnley, the Baby of the North in Bradford, and the Angel of the North in Gateshead. Giving our public art the same respect, I'm confident our own artwork can still represent us too. If it does, what does it say about us?